Today, I'm going to tell you guys the two things that I learned from Andrew Tate. Now, some of you might be saying, well, he's kind of a bad dude, right? He said a lot of really bad stuff. What could we possibly have to learn from him? However, I am a big fan of separating the wheat from the chaff. You don't just look at a person and hear what they're saying and then just throw everything out. And I want to share with you really quickly someone who can really articulate what it is that I'm saying. So check this out.
Chaff. You know, one of the things I see with readers who are unsophisticated and intellectually arrogant is they'll read someone great. Maybe they'll read Nietzsche, for example, and they'll find the odd thing that Nietzsche said that grates against their current moral sensibilities, whether they do that in context or out. And then they'll throw away the whole book. It's like,
that's what I'm saying.
You don't throw away the whole book. It was Nietzsche. You don't throw away the book. He's like 1 in a billion. You read it carefully and you think, well, okay, no to that. But yes to this. And you do the same thing with Dostoevsky, and you do the same thing with Tolstoy. You do the same thing with the great writers of the past that have been passed down to us. You read intelligently. You separate the wheat from the chaff.
Exactly, and that is exactly what it is that I'm trying to do here. I'm not necessarily saying that everything Andrew Tate is great, and I certainly don't believe that he's on the level of Nietzsche or Dostoevsky or Jordan Peterson for that matter, but he was very entertaining, and through my time as being entertained by him, I did learn a thing or two. At least some of the things that he said, really piqued my interest. And one of the main things that he said was the word perspicacious. I can't even say it right. Perspicacious is the name of the word. I think it means to look around and observe. And what he was basically talking about is that you got to look around and see what is going on. You don't go through life completely blind and not paying attention to anything. And, look around and have a look. And so I've really started paying more and more attention to myself, how I operate, how I feel when I do certain things, trying to be more perspicacious about the things that are in my life. And now, the second main thing that I learned from Andrew Tate was that not to be arrogant. A lot of times we can really think that we know everything right off the bat, and that, I can do this by myself, and when someone tries to give you advice, you're just like, that's nice, but I'm kind of just going to do my own thing. Give you an example from my own life. I'm trying to get shredded because I'm trying to work hard, become a quote alpha male or whatever that's supposed to mean nowadays, and just take care of my body. And so I bought a program from Kino Body, and I've actually struggled with this a lot in that I would buy a program from a certain fitness YouTuber and then I would modify it myself. It's like, oh, I know more than them. I'll change it. They've given me all of this advice. I'm going to mess with it. I'm going to change it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to follow the advice exactly first and get results and then learn from the results I got and then modify it. I'm just going to assume that I know what the heck I'm doing and modify the advice that they've already given me, that I've already paid for. And so I think that's very, very arrogant of me. And Andrew Tate was the guy who helped me understand that, hey, that's not the way to success. Someone who is where you want to be, they give you advice. If you're going to take the advice, don't just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to sort of do this, but I know I can change it. I'm going to change this and do that because I know more than them. It's like, do you really? Why are you asking for advice? Why are you buying programs and asking for help if you already know what it is that you're doing? Now, that's not to say that you don't customize things for your particular life. Obviously, that is something that I have to do, but there's a difference between knowing yourself and understanding that, hey, I have a knee injury. Maybe I shouldn't be doing full-on squats. Maybe I should pivot to a machine and build up that sort of strength back in my knee again. That's where I'm at. And just being like, oh, I don't really want to do those workouts. I'm going to substitute this, and maybe I'll change the diet a little bit and do this or whatever. There's a line there. And I think a lot of times that we're just really, really arrogant. We get great advice, and then we're like, whatever. I'm kind of going to do it. I'm kind of not going to do it. And that's one of the things that I've been doing a lot of my life. And Andrew Tate was one of the people that helps me do that. And so I think that's really, really great. I really, really did learn something from it. I think that's a very positive part of my life that's going to go for it. And I do owe, you know, that spark of wisdom, that knowledge to Andrew Tate. However, that does not mean that Andrew Tate is an all-around stand-up super swell guy. In fact, there's a lot of evidence coming out that seems to indicate the opposite. So let's talk about that. We're going to go over to criminal lawyer analyzes Andrew Tate's own incriminating words. Andrew Tate be snitching on himself, guys. And, you know, that's the thing. It's like there's obviously so much ego. I think the guy genuinely believed he could do whatever the heck he wanted and get away with it. He blatantly said, I moved to Romania to get away from law enforcement. And so, you know, the things that he said early on in his career before he was famous are really like dead giveaway, self-snitching, bad idea all around. And I think he sort of cleaned it up later on. But all around, I think it was a really big mistake for him to just sort of, like, he was just bragging. He was just all this bravado. I could do what I want. I can hit a woman here and there, or I like the idea of being in control and avoiding law enforcement. I shouldn't have to, you know, pay attention to this and that. I've committed multiple felonies, you know, that thing that he says, right? And so it's really, really weird that he would do all of this. I think it just speaks to just this massive, massive ego. But let's take a listen to what this really awesome guy has to say, and I highly recommend that that you subscribe to his channel.
That they're talking about, and all the stuff that he's put out there can be used against him, not taken out of context. So what is he charged with? He's charged with sex trafficking, and I would venture to bet that maybe even some tax stuff might come down the pike. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Sex trafficking, there's three, unless you're dealing with underage, we don't have any evidence that anybody's underage, but we have three things: force, fraud, or coercion. Force, obviously, that's like being in chains and, you know, not being allowed to leave.
Yeah.
Fraud, being kept there under false pretenses. If there's an element of fraud in the way that you are enticing somebody or keeping somebody in a particular position to work for you, and if it's in the sex business, that's sex trafficking. Or coercion, threat of harm, or some other way to limit your movement. And so let's kind of look at one of his very first videos that he did. These are his words, not my words.
Exactly.
And I'm going to play, and I'm not going to take it out of context. We'll play this. Let's just make sure I'm not taking things out of context.
When you say webcam company, people assume, oh, it's just a sex fest. But in reality, it's a shitload of people management. The HR category of the webcam business is the largest and most important thing. You're effectively taking girls, teaching them how to make unlimited money from home, and then making sure they give it all to you.
So you're making sure that you're teaching girls how to make a shit ton of money and give it all to you.
This
is one of his first instructional videos. A lot of guys, you know, he's got a lot of fans, and a lot of guys think, oh, in order to have some wealth, you have to have a Bugatti, you have to do this, you have to do that. In order to have wealth, you have to have self-pride. You have to know who you are as a person. And where do you get that from? You get that from building, as I've always said. So I do two things. I like to be motivation for.
Honestly, it's so weird. One, that is what sex trafficking is. You know, you can't just, it's different to have an employee and then you pay that employee. But what he's doing, as you'll see later on in the video, is that he's just taking money from women. He literally admitted to it. No one is coming out and making up this stuff about him. He literally admitted to it. And the whole idea of getting rich and having Bugattis and getting all this money, well, that's not what it is to feel good about yourself. You feel good about yourself from having self-pride and doing the things that you said you were going to do, no matter how big or small. You will never fill the hole that is in your heart with material things. You always need more. Human beings are designed for connection. There's a reason millionaires kill themselves. It's not because they don't have enough money. It's because they lack the connection that they were originally trying to find in the first place. But let's keep going up to this next part here and hear what he has to say. Yeah.
And that was it.
Bedroom in my house. I wanted to buy property in Thailand and move to Thailand. I needed 80,000. I was 10 grand short, and I thought I'd go to the casino and make the 10.
That's also telling. I'm going to go to the casino and try to make money when he's not even a gambler. You guys, stay away from the casino.
You can't make money in the casino.
Obviously, we all know how that story went. So I lost 30, so now I need 40. I needed it quickly. So I was sitting there trying to find a way to make money. So how can I make money? And what I did was, I said to Tristan, I'm literally not leaving my room until I wait for us to make more money. Because I can only fight so many times per year, and I know their income. So I got a pen and paper, and I was on YouTube, like researching, how people make money, what millionaires have, and they kept talking about assets. was sitting thinking, what assets do I have? You know, I'm trying to buy a property. I mean, I didn't own a property in the UK.
Now, think about the word asset. What is an asset? Well, I suppose this hat is an asset. It's not worth much, but it's really the brand is worth a lot more than the hat is. But what is an asset? The office, the building, your brand. Those are assets. Things that you own are assets.
Times I didn't pay any tax to anyone. I didn't want to pay taxes, so I didn't buy a house to do it for me. So I was like, what?
And keep in mind, keep that tax thing in the back of your head.
Yeah.
What assets do I have? Like, I have a car. I have this, I have that. And then I realized I had about 5 girlfriends, all smoking hot. And females are an asset. Attractive females are absolutely an asset. And if you disagree with me, walk in the club with 10 blondes, and you'll see who the most important guy in the club is. Fuck the champagne shows.
Who the fuck cares who the most important guy in the club
is? Who cares?
The most insecure guy in the club, it's important to that guy. But it should never be important to you to be the most important guy in the club. What should be important to you is the people around you having their respect, but having their respect not because you're walking in there with 12 wands.
I've walked in the club with 10 girls, and there's guys next to me doing champagne shows. Is he going to look at their table or my table?
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about their table. Pussy is the most important driving force of this planet. Pussy is the only reason that empires were started and wars were waged. It's the only reason all you guys are out there are even interested in having money. If there was no pussy about, you wouldn't care about having money. You say, oh, a little bit of money and I'll just play chess all day. I don't care.
No, that's not.
The only reason we want cars and clothes and 6-packs and houses and shit is for girls.
That is so simplistic.
It's way too simplistic. And let's bring it back just a little bit in terms of are women assets? Are people assets? Assets are things that you own. Property, stocks, NFTs, crypto, what have you. You don't own people. Now, you could say that, oh, this employee is a great asset to my company. This friend is a great asset to my mental health or my life or something like that. But there's a few key differences between an asset like real estate and stocks and a woman. For example, one of the main differences would be being a human being. You don't own people. This is ridiculous. And the idea is like, oh, I had these girlfriends and they're my assets. Well, hold on a second. It's like it's such a one-sided thing. The whole thing that humans are designed for connection. And when you have a girlfriend, it's not just a one-way thing. The only way the relationship is actually worth anything is if you're putting in the effort too. You can't sell that. You can't sell a relationship because once you're apart, the relationship is gone. It only exists between the two people and you're a part of it. So it's not something you own. It's something that you partake in. You do not own women. You do not own people you're in a relationship with. You are partaking in a beneficial relationship. And in doing so, it may be an asset as in it benefits you, but you don't own the person. You are partaking in a mutual exchange. Women are not things to be bought and sold. They are our wives, our mothers, our sisters, our aunts, our sisters in Christ, our friends, our acquaintances, our co-workers. They're just as freaking smart as us, and they have feelings, and they freaking matter, okay? Now, suppose he's trying to think that maybe, oh, I have lots of these women that like me, that means other men look up to me. How insecure do you have to be to give a crap? That sounds like a very non-alpha thing to care about. I feel like the more alpha thing to care about would be your own personal self-worth that comes from doing the things that you say you're going to do and building something that matters. Society, not walking in the club with like 10 blondes and having everyone look at you. Who cares? You leave the club, what are you going to do next? It's so stupid, and I think that part would definitely be misogynistic in terms of like the things that Andrew Tate has said. I think that thing is definitely a misogynistic thing to say, and you can't just treat people like that and reduce them to, oh, they're just assets or something like that. That's not appropriate at all. It's oversimple. Like it's oversimplistic. It's honestly a little bit ridiculous. But let's roll up to another section where
control.
It's a very important element, that control.
The girls are like, what the fuck do I need this dude for? And they will leave. Every aspect of control. Tax is also another important element for controlling your woman. You're not going to pay anybody tax because you're getting paid in Bitcoin. So you don't need to pay tax to anybody.
That's not legal advice, by the way.
You need to tell your girl that you're paying the tax.
Yeah,
because girls are lazy. And girls are stupid. And girls don't understand how taxes work. So the girl's working with you, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, we made this much money, but I'm going to pay the tax to make sure we don't get in trouble.
again, like, do you notice the theme here? Like, he doesn't respect these people that are women. It's like, girls are stupid. They don't know how tax works. You know how many, like, female accountants there are? Like, a lot.
Okay. Now that allows you to do two things. One is another control element.
See how that control is a recurring theme over and over and over again?
I work with him. My tax is not a problem. If I do it alone, I have to deal with taxes. Taxes are complicated. It's a control element.
And he doesn't have respect for these women at all because he thinks they're stupid.
It allows you to pay her a smaller percentage. So I used to pay my girls 30%. So for every $10,000 they made, I give them 3, and I keep 7. They thought they were on 50%. And I said,
he's a liar,
too.
It's
because of taxes. So you're on 50%, we have to pay the tax first, and then it's 50-50. If they say, why is it 50-50? Because I'm the one on camera. You say, because I'm the one typing, I'm the one with the property you're working in, I'm the one paying the bills, the electricity, I'm the one who's, and the electricity and every other maintenance cost of this property, I'm the one who bought the equipment, I'm the one who knows what he's doing, I'm the one with the knowledge, I'm the da-da-da-da-da. Shut the fuck up, go on. And they should be pretty happy with that if they respect you as a person overall. So you're paying 30.
If they respect you as a person, don't bother respecting them as a person, like, at all. Well, they have, it's such a one-way street with this guy. It's so weird. It's like he's like, women are stupid. Well, they should respect you as a person. It's like, well, again, back to the whole relationship thing that you partake in. Respect is a two-way street. Right? Liar. That's fine.
Sign away. I'm not fucking signing. I'll throw them away afterwards. They think something's happening. Something real's happening. Nothing's happening except me getting rich, bitch.
Nothing's happening except for me getting rich, bitch. That's
Yeah.
what he just said. So he's taking another 20% of what would have been their earnings, saying he's paying taxes, but he's not paying taxes. His words. Having them even sign a dummy tax form that is just to try to convince her even more that he's paying some taxes, which is just ridiculous.
It's fraud.
So, what is the middle word? Fraud. That's fraud. Force, fraud, or coercion.
Anyway, so tax is another important element to keep control of the girl. You have to fuck the girls. You cannot do a business relationship with a female. I'll tell you why.
This is ridiculous.
Women have sex with somebody.
What?
If they're not fucking you,
So
they're
do
fucking
men.
somebody else. Now, a woman's always going to be the most loyal to the guy she's fucking, as opposed to anyone else for any other reason. If you have a girl work for you and you say, look, we're going to go to this farmer's going to make money, here's your cut, here's my cut, we're going to work together.
It's like, yeah, as a man, I would be the most loyal to the woman that I'm with as well. That's what it means to be in a bonded relationship. And just because someone is in a relationship where they are most loyal to them doesn't mean that they can't work for you. Because people can think and they can make different levels of commitments. I am committed to my wife, but say I have a female boss, I am committed to working for her and doing the best that I can. It's so ridiculous, and it's like he's basically just a few hairs shy from legally being a pimp. But if you go back and watch the full video, which I'll link down below, he says very clearly that the psychological aspect is more or less the same. And it's absolutely ridiculous that he thought he could just like up and say all of this stuff and get away with it. And that they're not going to use this against him. They are absolutely going to use this stuff against him. And so, honestly, man, it's so
I'm quite a lot.
weird. And so let's move over to what Alba and Preach had to say, because they did a really good job of sort of like walking through, because a whole bunch of new texts and transcripts came out, and maybe it sounds like they were leaked to the press on purpose by the prosecutors, probably to help move things along the way that they want. But let's check this out, because you guys should subscribe to Abba and Preach as well, by the way. But these are, yeah.
Marriage. Then discusses said victim as a commodity to be used for making money. Andrew Tate says, you have to understand that once you're mine, you might be mine forever. A woman never leaves her man. I'll be the last man in your life. What do we do if we fall in love and I kidnap you to bring you to Bucharest? And then the girl replies, I don't think it's kidnapping if I want to come. First, I have to see in your eyes that you will never be able to live without me, and then I can trust you to show you everything. Bring a ring when you come. This is what the girl said. And he says, can you be loving enough to be a wife? To always be by my side wherever I go, to talk to zero men besides me? You have to move to Romania with me to keep an eye on you. You're mine. Don't ever forget that. And she says, but can I trust you? He says, yes, you can. We'll meet in Romania. So they're basically establishing that the way that he's getting these people involved in the whole business is through fraud. And if you remember what the guy said earlier in regards to some of the criteria that need to be met, okay?
Yeah.
And one of them is fraud. And that's what they're trying to establish with these conversations.
Yeah, so like honestly, like sex trafficking, it doesn't necessarily like they changed the law so that like if you have a boyfriend and a girlfriend and the girlfriend's on OnlyFans but she gives all the money to the boyfriend, that's sex trafficking. Like people get, in big trouble for that.
That they might inquire to make that charge stick. Basically, he wasn't telling people, hey, I'm running a can business, come down. He's like, I want to marry you. You're going to fall in love with me. You're going to fall in love with me. He gets them all the way down to Romania inside of his compound. Then he springs it on him with who? His mother. So Andrew Tate says, you're not stupid. And he's talking to one of the victims. You're not stupid. And you can probably guess how I make so much money. I have to hide what I'm really doing. And the victim says, webcam? And he says, I've been doing this for a long time with a team of girls working on video chat. The company was fake, but this is how I laundered my dirty money. Some of the girls who work for me, I use them to do other things. To move money or illegal things, documents, and I will never do that with you. Basically telling the girl, you're different from the others. I make them do the really illegal stuff. Again, they have it right here in the wiretaps, okay? They're admitting to this stuff. This is going to be used in court, and you're gonna have a hard time explaining this one away. What is this money laundering that you were doing?
You can't go to the court and be like, hey, what happened was... Scratch your head.
Yeah. Well, you see, we were doing a play, and I was playing a character that had the same name as me, and we were trying to write like a movie or something, or like something. It's like, how do you explain that away? How the heck do you explain that away? They literally wiretapped his place, and they got that.
Okay, so now here comes the next part. This is I think the biggest one. Tate's angels, meaning the bottom, the two women. I mean, what do they call them, bro? What would you always say? This is what it reads.
Charlie's? You know what to say, hoes?
These are the women who work for him. The Glay Maxwells. If you don't make money, we're going to have a problem. Punch yourself in the mouth until I arrive, because then I'll give you another 10, you incurable slacker. And the other girl says, I'll break you when I get there. And the victim says, what did I do? And the bottom is, you have 1 hour and 10 minutes to disappear. And the victim says, but what did I do? You're down 20%, 4 days since you posted. And she says, if Andrew looks to see you if you posted TikToks, you won't even have time to pack. You're flying off the balcony straight away. So what does this conversation really mean? This is where this is important. It might not mean much to y'all because you're like, well, when they're taking this in conjunction with everything else, the fraud element involved, the coercion element, the aspect of like lying about what they're really going to be doing there, the fact that this girl who works for Tate is saying she's going to be punching the girl 10 times when she gets there, that there's these threats of violence, the one saying like, Andrew Tate gets home, you're going to be flying off the balcony. Is that literally? Probably not, but there is some element there of threats of potential violence if you don't do what's needed. When you take that to court, and these are conversations that are happening in private, you understand? They're going to take this into strong consideration when they're making their case. They're like, how do you explain this stuff? Oh, we're just joking. We're not going to actually make her... Well, then why is the victim terrified? Oh, she's just lying. You think that's going to really be a real defense in court?
You know the thing is, there's some people that are not going to believe that.
Of course.
There's going to be a lot of guys going to be like, yeah, it ain't that bad, it ain't that bad. And you know why? Because they actually talk like that. They talk like that with the girls. The girls... I'm saying guys, but I'm talking... Girls do the same shit. Oh my God, oh my God, I swear, I'm going to punch you in your mouth. And people talk like that on a regular basis. I was astonished at the fact, the language that some people use with their friends or with their loved ones. Yeah, but it's just, I'm just talking. It's just this, it's just that. Whenever you talk to them or whenever you check them, it's like, yo,
it's ridiculous.
You cannot talk to me any kind of way. You can't talk to me about you're gonna punch me in my face. You can't tell me that you're gonna kick me in my throat. You can't do shit like that. You know, man, it's just talk. It ain't real.
No.
These people are going to be super motivated to do this. Tate moved from the UK.
It's not, you can't defend that. You can't defend that. It's like, in my relationships with the people in my life, you don't get to talk to me that way. You don't get to talk to me that way unless it's blatantly sarcastic and we're all laughing and having a good time and it doesn't freaking matter. But you can't do that. And it's so sad that people actually think that speaking to one another that way is normal. And it's something that should be ordinary and accepted. It's not. It's terrible. And you shouldn't do that because the words that you speak can come from within. And, you know, the emotions that you're actually feeling for those people, it matters. It manifests in your actions. It's like, you can't treat people that way. You can't treat people that way. So anyways, you know, my thoughts are, I think it's very, very likely that Andrew Tate is completely screwed. If that's what they leaked to the public, they probably have so much more. Remember, they raided like 7 houses. They raided like 7 houses and they took all of his cars away. Like, you can't just do that willy-nilly. Like, you have to have, you know, some serious evidence to say, yeah, this is a good idea. We need to raid this guy's, like, 7 places and take all of his cars away. And we're going to deny him, you know, parole or bail or whatever it is that they have in Romania because we're afraid that he's going to leave the country. You know, like, I think he's screwed. If that's all that they're leaking, they have much more. I am almost certain that they have so much more evidence is going to be, it might end up being a beatdown, if I'm honest. If this might turn into, I think he might be done. This might be it for him. But in terms of, Andrew Tate's message and the things that he says to young men and the lifestyle that he says is the ideal for men, it's wrong. It's completely wrong. It's absolutely wrong. You will never fill the bottomless pit in your heart with stuff, because stuff doesn't do anything. You can't have a connection to stuff. You can't feel those emotions continuously, sustainably. You get a car and then you get an elevation of joy for a little bit, but then your brain always settles down. What is it that we need? We need connection. We need purpose. Again, as I said earlier, millionaires kill themselves. Billionaires kill themselves. That should be a dead giveaway that the money is not the thing. It is a side effect of good discipline, working on something that matters and brings value to people and benefits the world, hopefully. And, I don't believe that running a can business benefits the world in any way. I think it's exploitation and it's wrong, but it's legal. And so it is what it is. I'm not a fan of it. But let's listen a little bit to what Matt Walsh has to say, because people are just so confused about what it is to be a man and what the ideal lifestyle and purpose for a man is. So let's have a quick look at this, and then I will give my final thoughts. After, of course, it starts buffering and I don't have to sit through an ad the whole time, because honestly, I don't think that buying cars and stuff is the ideal male lifestyle, nor is sleeping with lots of women. That is not the ideal lifestyle, in my mind, at least, because you'll never have enough. You'll never have enough.
This argument was summarized in a comment from a listener named Joshua, which I'll read because I think it just is representative of this sort of a mentality. He says, still sounds like Matt and most tradcons' definition of what masculinity means is exclusively through the lens of women and children's wants and needs. Unfortunately, that ideal will no longer work in the modern world with birth control, hookup culture, social media, and court systems that favor women and the denigration of traditional masculinity. I don't agree with all of Tate's views, but it sure beats Matt's prescriptions for young men. Mm-hmm. Again, I've read a great many comments making the same kind of point. A private message from another listener has a similar theme. It says, Matt, I agree with many of your opinions, but your message to men is off base. Young men follow Andrew Tate because his lifestyle is the ideal, whether you admit it or not. Wealth, fame, status, beautiful women were biologically programmed to want those things. Marriage is a losing game. The only solution in modern society is to reject the life of service, as you call it. So what is the problem with this view? Well, to begin with, it's nothing less than a full, unconditional surrender to the culture. Mm-hmm. It's true that the culture has increasingly made it difficult for both men and women to form and maintain strong, intact, lasting families.
Yes.
And that's because the elites who run our society don't want you to live that kind of life. Mm-hmm. They prefer that you focus on your individual wants, on fulfilling your own needs and satisfying your own desires. That's what they prefer for you. That's the life they want for you. A self-focused life is precisely the sort of life they wish for you.
Which will never
Makes it easier to manipulate. Mm-hmm. Less of a threat to their agenda. Not really a threat at all. I mean, if you're just out there focused on yourself, being a consumer, buying lots of things for yourself, consuming things for yourself, and all the rest of it, you're not a threat to their agenda at all. I mean, you're going along with it.
Yeah.
All of the things mentioned by Joshua in his comment, all of those things represent a conspiracy against the family. He's right about that. Mm-hmm. The way the family court systems are set up, birth control, all the rest of it. It's an attack on the family.
Yeah,
so what is the answer? To give up? To give the conspirators exactly what they want? To reward them for their efforts by turning your back on the very thing they've been assaulting for decades?
No.
The family is the fortress that they have been attacking. And you can defend it with your life, or you can wave the white flag. But if you choose to...
Exactly. And honestly, I don't understand this mentality where just give up on, those things. Yes, it is risky. It is hard to have a family. I'm not going to sit here and deny and be like, oh no, that the court systems aren't messed up and women don't take advantage of men. It's like, no, there's nothing wrong. Yeah, there's a lot of things wrong. But let me propose this to you, okay? In the alpha-based community, we always talk, you got to discipline yourself. You got to be committed. You got to focus. You got to work ridiculously hard, and you got to take big risks to get big rewards. No pain, no gain. Big risk, big reward. Discipline yourself and commit. Take a big risk. Start that company. Commit and work hard. get the reward with all the money, get the cars, take a risk, ask the girl out, see if you can sleep with her and get that reward, get the car and stuff. But then when it comes to love and marriage, they're like, oh, well, it's too risky. The court system's feminism and, all of the women there. It's like, really? I find it so odd that the alpha male community or the base or the red pill community, as some might call it, are like so dedicated to taking risks and getting their money up and working hard, except for when it comes to love. When it comes to love and actually committing to another person, well, that's too big of a risk. We gotta run away. And we gotta fill ourselves up with all kinds of money and cars that will never actually be enough, so we just have to keep getting more. And who are we paying for all of this stuff? The Matrix? The elites? It's all a hyper distraction. Essentially, you're becoming like an elite pawn. You become a millionaire, you're just buying all these cars and all this stuff. You're not a sheep anymore. You're an elite sheep. You're a special sheep. You've moved up the ranks of the playpen that they built for you. And you're still probably not happy. Because none of that stuff makes you happy. Why do you think you have to keep getting more? And so, studies show that those who have sex with multiple partners have a harder time pair bonding. And so it doesn't make any sense to me. And let's hop over to something that Patrick Bet-David said, because I really want to drive home the point that running away from love is not the answer to all of the different problems that society has and how you are feeling as a young man. It's not the answer to just not risk love. So let's have a look at what Patrick David had to say. The U.S. has the highest rate of children living in single-parent households of any nation on the world. About 80% of single-parent homes are led by single mothers. At a rate of 23% of children living with one parent and no other adults, the United States stands over 3 times the world average of 7% of children raised by one parent. For reference, the number stands at 3% for China and 4% for India. Even for children with a father present in the home, the average school-age boy only spends about 30 minutes per week in one-to-one conversations with his father. For comparison, the same boy on average will spend about 44 hours per week watching television, playing video games, and surfing the internet. And we wonder why, people are so dumb and ridiculous nowadays. Moving on, 90% of homeless and runaway children, 63% of teen suicides, and 85% of children and teens with behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. Fatherlessness likewise has a direct link to teen pregnancy and sexual activity. Roughly 70% of teenage pregnancies come from women raised in fatherless homes, and these same women have significantly higher abortion rates than women raised by both a father and a mother. Where am I? Oh, on the whole, fatherless kids are 20 times more likely to be incarcerated and 11 times more likely to exhibit violent behavior than the children from two-parent households. If a man and a wife raise a child, they're less likely to end up in jail, but they have the same chance as children raised by just their fathers. Girls with no fathers have lower self-esteem. We can lower crime, lower mental issues, help the economy, lower suicide rates, decrease homelessness by bringing back the family nucleus. I absolutely 100% agree. And so if you really want to make a difference in life, don't run away from love and don't run away from committing to the one thing that can actually make the world a better place. Buying more Lamborghinis won't fix the economy. It won't help the next generation of men. You know what will help the next generation of men and help them not suffer from all of the oppression that you're under, the court systems and feminism and whatever? Having fathers who stick around and be there for them and don't run off and have lots of affairs with lots of other women and break up their family and, break their mom's heart and stuff. Having fathers will make the world a better place. And so, I want to end this with, I'm going to tell you guys what I said to myself a year ago, because a year ago I was working really, really hard. I've always been on this get money, get in shape, become a YouTuber, get famous journey. And I was so concerned that falling in love and committing to a woman would actually conflict with that I can only have one or the other. I can either marry somebody and start a family, or I could pursue my dreams of being a YouTuber, public speaker, motivational speaker, and all of that jazz. Apparently, I believe that I couldn't have both, that I had to be committed to one or the other. And I was really leaning towards, I don't want to get a woman because I want to be committed to my dream. I don't want to have to sacrifice that. And I used all sorts of logic, like, if I marry a woman and then don't achieve my dreams, I'm just going to resent her and it's going to be a miserable marriage. Things like that. However, I'm going to say this to my past self. I'm not saying it to you guys. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I'm not saying this to you necessarily. I'm saying this to my past self. And I say this just because of how harsh it's going to sort of be. You're a freaking coward. You are a freaking coward. You talk about taking big risks and putting in the hard work and disciplining yourself. Well, you know what? A real alpha can achieve his dreams and raise a good family at the same time. A real alpha can satisfy himself and a woman at the same time. The truth is that you are not oppressed. Women are not the issue. Society is not the issue. You have a discipline issue. You lack the discipline and the strength to be committed to one woman and work your butt off achieving your dreams at the same time. You lack the discipline to manage that time, manage the emotions, and manage the work and the time needed to do that. You have a discipline issue. It's very un-alpha. It's a very beta male excuse to just chase money in hopes to fill you up, to fill that hole in your heart, because actually having a family and purpose would be too hard or too risky. That's a very lame excuse. You have a discipline issue. Feminism, whatever, yeah, it's all whack. The woke left is ruining everything, yeah. You don't have to be a victim of that and settle. You can have meaning, happiness in life, and love, and achieve your dreams. But it takes discipline. And a lot of you are just making these lame excuses because you lack the discipline to do that, but you don't want to admit that to yourself because you think you're an alpha. Right? You've told yourself that I'm this alpha male. I got guns. I got like $100,000 at the bank. I got a Mustang, and I'm an alpha. It's like, hooray! Look at me. And why? Because you're still insecure. You're trying to get other people's attention. You're trying to get affirmation from other men and women instead of just being secure within yourself and not having to prove anything. You have to walk around and say that you're an alpha. Real alphas don't need to tell people that they're alphas. They just do stuff and then people are impressed. Okay? So this is ridiculous. This is silly. So obviously I'm not saying that every single man needs to get married and have kids. I'm not a Catholic like Matt Walsh is, more of a evangelical type. I don't believe that everyone has to have a family. Not everyone is meant to be a father. Some people are meant to be single, and that's better for them. But this whole trend of running away from marriage and fatherhood because feminism makes it too hard for us to hold a family together, so we're just going to go get money and satisfy ourselves that way. Like, you're ultimately going to end up in the same place as them. Right? Like, women are rejecting motherhood to pursue a career, and eventually they're going to end up sad, alone at 60 and 70 because they didn't have any kids and no one's looking after them. And they're going to feel empty inside. You're going to suffer the same fate. You're going to suffer the same fate. I find it so fascinating that the left and the right, the woke and the base community, they kind of operate on the same logic. It's like, whoa, the other side is making it too difficult for me to have a family and accomplish my dreams, so I'm just going to ditch having a family and go accomplish my dreams. They're both going to be miserable. You're all going to be miserable together, and you're all going to blame each other. When in reality, you have a discipline problem. Those are my thoughts on, the current state of the culture. And yes, I understand that the system is messed up. I'm not denying any of that. I'm not denying that the woke has gone too far. I'm not denying that the court system is messed up. I'm not denying that Andrew Tate said some good things. I'm not denying that, there's a lot of nuance and gray areas to the stuff. And I do not claim to know everything about it. But it seems to me that we're running to the wrong thing to fill us up inside and to make our lives as men meaningful and purposeful. And so what I would recommend is to not make money your only goal in life, because, again, millionaires kill themselves all the time. So it's obviously ain't it.